Okay, in this video, we're just going to take a quick starter look at the JavaScript breakout program. So I'm going to assume you've downloaded the zip file and extracted it somewhere. So I'm going to use, I normally use Visual Studio Code, but I'm going to use Notepad++, just to show you how to load it and navigate around that system. Okay, so I'm going to go, I've loaded Notepad++ here, so I'm now going to go File, Open Folder as Workspace, which lets me point to a folder. So what I need to do is on my folders, go and find where I've saved it, which is in web, well, where is it? Web coding. No, it's not in there. Coding general, web coding, and it is student breakout. So I'm just going to select that folder and then click OK. And straight away it starts giving me a dynamic structure that lets me look at everything. Okay, so I don't know why it's done that, but there you go. Right, so I've got a HTML page, so let's have a look at that first. So if we just double click that, it'll load up, and you'll see there's not much actual HTML in here. There's at the bottom there is an onload event that when the web page is loaded, it runs a JavaScript function called initialize, which starts the whole game off. And then there's a few div tags that hold basically the main game screen, and that's about it. The rest of it is full of JavaScript loads. And I'll talk about that when we add a new JavaScript file as to the ordering that you have to put all these things. So the first thing you might want to do is run it to see what it is. So when we're on the breakout page, if we go up to the run menu, we can select what browser we want to use. This only works in Chrome and Firefox. So let's just load it in Chrome. You see there's the game, goes into demo mode, etc. Okay, reacts to the keys, there you're done. Right, so when you finish that, we can just close it. Right, so let's just have a look around the folders we've got here. We've got a graphics folder, which has got various, I don't know what happens if you load these in Notepad. Let's just see what happens. It just loads the raw data for you. So no point in loading those. But they're just images that are used in the game. Okay, so you don't really need to mess about with any of those unless you want to change some of the graphics, and feel free to have a mess about with that. There's a CSS folder that's got one CSS file in it. It's got comments on it, and it's basically specific classes for types of things like bricks, and then there are all the rest are ID based definitions. So they're like for one-off things, IDs. So they've all got various settings. So again, you can play about with those, but we don't need to touch those. They're all pretty much set. The main folder is code, and there are some JavaScript files in here, and there are two further folders. One that's got some sprite related JavaScript files, and one that's got level ones. So we shouldn't really need to change anything in the sprites folder, but you might want to look at those if you just want to have a look at how things work. The interesting ones for us are level data. So let's double click that one and open it up. This is the one that picks the level that gets displayed on screen. And there's a couple of bits that you need to be aware of. There's a variable here called last level. This is used by the game to work out whether you've got to the end of the game when it's picking the next level. Okay, which is done by this little function here called next level, which increments the level that we were currently on and checks to make sure that we haven't gone past the last level. Okay, and if it does, it goes back to the title screen. Okay, so if we add more levels, we need to make sure that we update this value here. Otherwise, we won't ever get to them. Okay, now the levels are chosen by this function called generate level. By default, because I set this up on purpose for you, the level number is passed, and then we override it here on this line 31 as it is in Notepad++. So this forces a particular level to always play. So currently it's playing level 4, and there's a switch statement here which just selects what level and does the actual setup for that level. And level 4 is this one, this wave screen. Okay. If I change that to, what should we go for? Let's just put it to 1. That will force the game to always play level 1, which is great when you're testing your level layouts. But obviously, when we want to play the game proper, we just need to comment it out by putting 2 forward slashes. Okay, so let me just show you that that works. In order for changes to be reflected, you need to make sure you save things. And I think Notepad+ currently in the latest version makes these go red if they need saving. So if we just go File, Save, and you'll see there's a shortcut there, Control S, and it's blue if there are no changes. So I've now saved that. So if I go back to breakout page and say Run, and say launching Chrome, oh, hang on, it's whatever one's selected on the tab. So if I got my breakout page and do Run, launching Chrome, and you'll see what it'll do now is it picks level 1. Okay, so it's forcing level 1 to play. So no matter what I do, every time it's going to be level 1. Okay, so in level data, that's how you change the level. So if you want to look at a particular level that's later on, like the Space Invader, which is level 13, well, just put it to level 13. It's red, so make sure we save that. Go back to breakout page and say Run. And then if I start the game, then I get my Space Invader, which animates, and I'll show you how you do that. One other thing you can do is if you just leave Chrome open and you do an update, so if I go back to Notepad++ and pick a different one to look at, let's have a look at level 7. So I'm going to change that to 7. Make sure I save it. If I just go back to Chrome and then just refresh, that's the equivalent of loading it back to the browser, and you'll see it's picked that level I've just selected. Okay, so yeah, it's probably easier to, once you've got Chrome open, just remembering that if nothing seems to have changed, it's probably because you haven't saved the work. Okay, so let's just have a quick fiddle about with some of these. I'm going to set it back to level 1, forcing level 1, and I'm going to play about with this setup. So what we've got here is we've got a class called standard, and you can see you know it's a class because you've got the new keyword, and we're making an instance of the standard brick layout class. So if we want to look at the code for that, in levels there should be something called standard.js, because I kept everything in separate files. So if we load that up, you'll see there's not much there. All we do is we specify what we're going to display the level on, which is the same every single time. We pass it a list to store all the bricks in, and then we have 3 more parameters. And you can see I've commented these, so you know that rows is how many rows you want, columns is how many columns, size is percentage of brick size, which is a number between 0 and whatever number you want. 1 means normal size, 0.5 means 50%, 1.5 means 150%. Okay, so it doesn't do much. So if we go back to level data, we can look at those parameters. So these first two, we're never going to change those because you'll break everything if you do. But we can change it. So currently it's on 3 rows. So let's have 10 rows. But and it's got a scale there of 1.2. So let's make it 0.5 and see what effect that is. So it's red, so we save it. If we go back to Chrome, refresh that. Remember, we'll just let demo mode run so we can see it, and you can see what it looks like. So you can see the bricks are smaller, okay, which makes it a little bit weird. But that's just tweaking with the parameters. Okay, so you can play about with all these parameters. So we've got this drop one. Let's have a look at that one. So I'm going to change drop. I don't know what all the properties are of these parameters, so I'm just going to load drop up, and I can see that we have got screen and bricks again, but then we've got number of rows, number of columns, time delay. So this one drops the bricks, and you'll see this in a sec. And depth is how far to drop each time. So let's go back to level data. So that's number of rows. So let's increase that. Let's make it 5 rows, 10 columns. Remember the second to last parameter was the time delay. So the time between drops. And then it was how many pixels do we want to drop. So let's make that 20 pixels drop, and let's drop every half a second, which would be impossible to play, but let's just see. So we've forced it to level 2 so we can watch this one play. So let's save that. So I'm doing Control S, go back to Chrome, refresh, and let's just see what that looks like. So it's a bit wide on the screen, so we probably don't want that many columns, but you can see it dropping down every half a second. Now, it's a bit jerky, so if you want to make it smoother, we just alter the delay. So if I put it at 0.02, which is as fast as this timer system is working, 50 times a second, so that's milliseconds that, and I'm going to make it drop 1 pixel. So this is a frame, so every frame is going to drop 1 pixel. So in 1 second it's going to drop 50 pixels, because it's going to drop every 50th of a second. Okay, so let's just save that and see what that does. So saved it, go back to Chrome, refresh, just let the demo play, and you'll see you'll get like a smooth drop down the screen. Again, impossible to play. So what we might do is we say, right, okay, I want it to move a pixel each time, but let's just say every 10th of a second. Save it, and then go back to Chrome. Refresh, and let's just watch this time. So every 10th of a second, it's going to drop 1 line, 1 by 1 pixel. So it's still nice and smooth, but it's a bit slower. Okay, obviously it's still too fast for you to kill that many lines of blocks. Now you can see it was off the screen a little bit. So let's just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is really the maximum for the width. Okay, so if I go back and I say, right, well, I don't want 10 columns, I want 8 columns. Save it, go back to Chrome. Hopefully it doesn't look so stupid that it's gone off the screen this time. There you go. So with a standard set of spacing and everything, that's roughly what you get. Okay, so I've been editing levels that were already there, but what I might want to do is add a new level. So I'm just gonna create, I'm gonna copy one of the wavy ones. So I'm gonna copy the case and the level, the active level line, and the break line. So you can see that those 3 lines out. I'm going to copy that using Control C, and I'm just going to put at the bottom, just before the default line, I'm just going to copy that in, and I'm going to change the number. Instead of 44, I'm going to make it 14. Okay, so I don't know much about this, so I'm going to go on to the level number and set it to 14. Let's just see what we've got as copying, and then we'll make some changes to it. So I'm going to save that, go back to Chrome, refresh, just watch it on the demo again. Right, so you can see it's doing a wibbly wobbly. It's quite smooth. There's quite a few lines on there. Okay, right. So it's smooth. So that's what this one does. I don't know what that final parameter does. So let's have a look at wave. So this is what I want you to do, just to experiment with it. That's the scale. True if you want to change brick size during action. Well, let's modify that and see what happens. So let's make that true. And you'll see Notepad Plus knows this is JavaScript, so it's actually giving you the correct spelling and casing for JavaScript. It's quite clever like that. You can see like it's highlighting all the keywords. Right, okay, so we've saved that. Let's just see what that does. So refresh. Oh yeah, I remember what it does now. Yeah, so not only are they wobbling in a sine wave, they're actually changing size based on a sine wave as well. Okay, so you can have a little bit of a play about with that. Right, so if we look at the wave code, you can see that it's got a fixed number of bricks in there. Okay, so when we're scaling, it's generating 10 rows, 8 columns, and making the brick size 1.25. They're going to change anyway. When we're not scaling, it makes the 9 rows and 8 columns. Okay. Right, so let's have a look at a different level. Let's have a look at level 12. Now, level 12 is something called A level. So let's load that up. An A level, if you look at this class line, extends or is what we call a subclass of another class called character that lets you define your layout using this block format. Okay, and down here, the constructor, when we say new, so we say new A level, what actually is running is this constructor. Okay, where we've passed the parameters and it does some setup code. So let's have a look at what this looks like and we'll see about making a completely new level using a completely new class to define our own graphic. Okay, so let's make sure everything's saved. That isn't saved, so we wanted to show level 12. Let's make sure, yeah, we got level number to 12. Let's just save that. Go back to Chrome and just have a look at that. Now, when you experiment with this, you might break things. So you can always do Control Z to undo, okay, to get back to a state when it was working. And you can see what I've got there is got like I've made a pixely character on screen. Okay, so that's an A. So we could, if we go back to Notepad++, we could mess about with A, but you'll see there's no other parameters other than screen and active brick. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to create a new class. So we're going to go File, New, and by default it will just be called New 1, 2, 3. But we need to save this. So we're going to say File, Save As. Now, it knows we're in our workspace because of the way we loaded the folder. So it's pointing us at the workspace folder, but we want to put this in levels. Now I'm going to create an X shape. So I'm going to call this X level. And I must make sure that I don't leave it as normal text file, that I leave it as a JavaScript file. Okay, if I leave it as a text file, it won't work. So I'm calling it X level, and it's automatically, because I selected JavaScript, put .js on the end. So I'm going to save that. There's nothing in it. Now I'm going to look at A level because I'm going to use that as my basis, and I'm going to copy by doing Control A, everything. Then I'm going to do Control C, and I'm going to paste that in X level. Okay. Now that will go horribly long. What I need to do is update the class name. So it says class X level extends character. So character is a class that allows us to define these shaped items for our maps. Okay, we don't need to alter constructor. What we might want to do is change the colors. Okay, and I'll explain how this works right now. So we've got this layout. We can have as many rows and as many columns as we want, but obviously it depends on the size of the bricks and the spacing and everything. The spacing is sort of fixed. So we're dealing with the limit of maybe 8, 9 columns and probably 15 rows, something like that. So we've got numbers here, and they represent bricks. Where we've got a 0, the system will ignore that and leave a blank, not put a brick there. Where we've got a 1, it will pick color 1 from this color set. Now, when we're talking about arrays and lists in programming languages, the first item, so I've got 3 colors defined here, black, purple, and cyan. Black is at position 0. You can put little comments at the end of your lines like this. That's position 1. So whatever you put as the first color is going to be ignored. See, it doesn't matter what color you put in there. You could put brown, you could put white, you could put cyan. It doesn't matter. Okay, but you can't use that color. If you want a black brick, then you need to specify one of the further colors as brick. And in fact, I'll do that now. Let's just change that. I want color 1 to be black. So where I put a 1 in my layout, I'm going to get a black block. Let's change color 2, and just to show you this works, so I'm going to put that as yellow. Now these are HTML colors, so look those up so that you can specify the colors you want. I'm not going to change anything else for now. So this is level X. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I create, and I'm going to create it from scratch this time. I'm going to say case 15. So I've gone back to level data.js. So I'll put case, and I'm going to put active level. Use the picker that comes up to help so you get spellings right. Equals new. I called it X level. We're going to pass it screen, and we're going to pass it active brick. And then we're going to put a semicolon, and then on the next line, after we pressed enter, we're going to put break. I'm going to force this to level 15. I'm going to make sure I've saved this. I'm going to make sure I've saved X level. And then I'm going to go back to my, so everything's saved. If in doubt, you can always do file, oh no, it doesn't, there isn't a save all on this. No, oh, because there's nothing to save. If in doubt, you can do file save all. But I'm going to go back to Chrome now, and I'm going to refresh it. Oh, and nothing's worked because we've added a new class. So if we go back to Notepad, all the classes have to be loaded in the HTML. Now, what's really important is X level uses another class. Okay, so if we look, and A level does as well, so we can use this as our example. If we look at our breakout page HTML, remember this is a video, so if I'm going a little too quick, just stop it and go back and just listen to it again. Right, so you can see A level is loaded there after characters loaded. So whenever you've got a class that extends another class, you have to load it after it. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. It's something that we call dependencies. So I'm going to write, I could write this from scratch, but I'm going to copy and paste A level. So I did, so what I did, I mean, I pressed home to get to the end of the line, and then I did shift and down cursor. That selects an entire line. If I copy that, I can then paste it in and it pastes an entire line. Okay, so let's just undo that a few times. Right, so I've now got 2 copies of A level to load, but I want X level. So I've just edited that. Okay, so if I make sure I save that, so that's important. If you've made a new class up, you must make sure you get it loaded and then loaded in the right place. Okay, so I'm now gonna go back to Chrome. I'm gonna refresh and hopefully our, was it black and yellow? Yeah, there you go. That's our black and yellow bricks on the screen. Now with black bricks, I found that really, that 2 words beginning with B does my mouth in. Just have a drink. With the black bricks, they show up all right on that background, but I can actually change the color of the background. So let me show you how to do that, and you can change that for all your different levels. So let's go back to Notepad++. So in X level, in the constructor, as long as you do this after the super line, and I'm going to do it, I'm just going to put it at the bottom. I'm going to change the color of the screen. So I'm going to say this dot screen. We got given the screen that we're drawing to, and we're going to change the CSS. So all this is done using JavaScript and CSS. I'm not using any frameworks like Node.js or whatever other JavaScript frameworks. This was a demonstration of what you can do with raw stuff and still get performance. Right, so I'm going to change the style, and the name of the style is called background color. And you can see, again, because Notepad++ knows a little bit about the language, it knows about the CSS attributes. So it knows what it's called, and you have to get the spelling right. American spellings. Right, so let's go for a disgraceful color. Let's have the world's worst color, magenta. Horrible color. Okay, so it's in text, so I'll put it in double quotes that. Right, so I'm going to save that, and hopefully we'll have the most disgusting color. If I had cyan bricks, it would top it off. I might change the yellow brick to cyan in a sec. Right, so when the demo plays this time and you go, whoa, horrible color, please don't pick any colors like that. Okay, so it's still showing an A because I copied it from the A one, didn't I? So let's go back to Notepad++. Let's put a nicer color on that. I'm gonna go with, I think I might just have, I'm gonna keep the black bricks because I like the black bricks. I'm gonna go with gray. Okay, and that's the American spelling. Let's just check that comes up gray. Refresh, let the demo run. Yeah, that's great. So I'm gonna stick with that color. Right, so let's just edit this. I want to do an X. So it's gonna be a big fat X. So I'm gonna have it have a black outline, I think. Now one thing that you might want to do is put press the insert key, because that lets you do this. Overwrite. So you don't have to keep pressing delete or backspace or anything like that. Okay. But remember you've got, oh, in Notepad++ it says down in this bottom corner, overtype. All right, so I'm just doing undo to stop myself doing that. Right, so wherever I put a 1, I'm going to get a black brick. So I don't know what this is going to look like, but it's just an experiment. So I'm going to have no, because that's going to be a gap. 1, I'm going to do on 1. And then I'm going to go down. And then I'm going to do, that's going to be nothing, nothing. That's going to be a 1. Right. There's symmetry with an X, so I'm going to copy those 2 lines and I'm going to put them at the bottom. Oh, but I ought to do them in the opposite order. Right. So I'm just going to And the nice thing is I can keep saving it and going back and just testing this, so I can see what that looks like, whether it looks awful or whatever. I'm not worried about, well, you can see I've sort of started to get an X. I'm going to use the yellow for the infill. So let's go back to Notepad. So instead of a 0, I'm going to put a 2. And got to. It probably would have been easier to make the yellow XE shape first. So let's do that. And then put the outline around it. So I'm just going to get rid of everything. And then try and do this X with the yellow ones. So that's going to be 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Right, so everywhere else I'm going to put ones around, oops, around the 2. Just do Control Z if you ever mess anything up. I'll put a 1 there, 1 there. This is going to look a bit chunky, but I don't mind. 1 there, 1 there. Oh, and 1's in that bit there. Right, so if I save that and have a look at that, see how awful it looks, refresh. Ah, there you go, it's not too bad. I'm probably, oh, I'm missing, oh no, the ball hit that one. Yeah, that's not too bad. So that's how you use the block format. There are loads of crazy things you can do. I'll do a further video to show you how to do some other effects by extending some of the other patterns. But that's all I want to show you for now, just to get you going. The key thing, make sure you open in Notepad++ as a workspace your folder, and that will give you all this stuff. I've got this thing up here because previously this was called something else. I don't know why that's come up. It's actually that folder doesn't exist anymore, but let's just, no, you can just remove it. The key thing is that when you create a new class, a new file, make sure you do file save as and make sure you put it in an appropriate place. They have to have unique names. Okay, otherwise for each folder they have to have unique names. Otherwise it causes you problems. Okay, and whatever you call the class, call the file the same name, and then it's easy to find. These are the sort of things you get used to doing when you program a lot. You just automatically give things sensible names. Okay. You can have more than 3 colors. You can make lots and lots of color lists. So you can actually take an image. You can do more lines. If let's say let's just make this bigger. Let's just duplicate the X. You can have more rows. What I might do is introduce another way of sizing bricks or putting bricks on screen, so that you can do more granular things and you can make pictures up and all sorts of weird stuff. So, I mean, the exercise that I want you to do with this, yeah, I want you to just play with it and see if you can make some levels. And on the assignment that I'll set up is what I want you to do is just submit your levels and then I'll include them. And then when I see you all in September, we'll see what other levels people came up with. But I will do a few more videos showing you some more advanced things that you can do. Okay. At the end of the day, everything is based off of this thing called level set, which defines all the basic stuff. So I'm going to add some extra functionality in so that you can do some more interesting things. Okay. This is just scratching on the surface. You can start looking at some of the other ones. You can look at the invader one to see how we do the animation. It's not that complicated. So you can make up your own. Again, that extends something called two states, which uses the character thing. But yeah, you can do that. So I've got my X level. I just doubled it. Let's just save that. It's probably too tall now. Let's refresh. Yeah, it probably is too tall. Big one right down to the paddle that. So we'll lose the ball straight. Yeah, that's that's a bit tricky. You could do that if you took out the middle blocks. Let's just do that. So if I take out these middle blocks, so we get like a tunnel effect. So the ball will bounce up, gives the player a chance. Let's save that. Let's just refresh. F5's a quick way of refreshing a browser, by the way. You don't have to keep finding the refresh thing. Oh, there you go. Then I got a little, gives me a chance. And so let's just have a quick play of that. Remember, I'm forcing it to select the level. Oh dear. It's going to be tricky when it comes in at the bottom. Oh, got it. Ooh. And there you go. Right, okay, I'll stop that there. So if you've got any questions in Teams, can you ask on the, just put a post on the general channel in the team that we're all in, and I'll answer questions. And if anyone's got anything specific, I can maybe record some videos and show you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.